Are you poor because of your history? History helps explain how countries develop. Location, where are you located? Are you poor because your country is located in certain part of the world? Whether you are in the tropics or you are in the temperate areas. Racism and racial discrimination. How do countries develop? Why are you poor? Are you poor because your country is poor? Are you poor because your country is located in certain part of the world? Are you poor because of your culture? Are you poor because of your history? In this episode, we are looking at some of those issues or conditions that have been discussed in different places where there is no agreement, where there is no total agreement really, actually, that these conditions bring you wealth, these conditions make countries prosperous, or these conditions accounted for countries' prosperity when they were developing. And why are we discussing these factors? Because for those countries that have not yet developed, I want that they understand these issues and factor them in their growth plans, in their growth strategies as countries, but also their citizens should be involved in their growth and development as households, getting incomes, as factories and farms, getting businesses, getting profits, and the country develops. History. There has been this great argument saying that history helps explain how countries developed. It is a long story, but I will summarize it. Some countries, and the arguments are that countries which, for example, had organized kingdoms, for example, in different parts of the world, in Latin America, in Asia, in Africa, and had already established state, which was like a country, which was like a nation, and it remained like that in that form, and only got support and external influence. There is an argument that those countries are developed better than countries that did not already have an organized state. State meaning a form of government. Whether it was at the beginning autocratic, dictatorial, but a kingdom, that is an argument for another day. Again, with history, there is another part we look at, which says that some countries are poor in different parts of the world because of history, bad history. They were colonized. Others, their children were taken away as slaves who went to the other parts of the world, like North America and Latin America and the Caribbean, to work in sugar plantations or on mining, and they were never paid. Some people argue that racism and racial discrimination in some countries like USA, till now, even with the democracy, is attributed to the history of the countries where these immigrants came from. That some people who came from Africa and maybe some Indian poor states and some Latin American countries are still poor, even within the United States, because of their history. That we will discuss another time. But what is true is that some bad history smells bad. Some bad history took away strong people from some parts of the world and left maybe probably weaker ones. Some people during slave trade died on the way. They never even reached where they were going to be slaves. And that, for example, continents like Africa, for example, that it lost a lot of people, and people are important for development when we look at human capital and the role of the people. So, yes, history could be a factor, but we should say we shouldn't be entombed and imprisoned in history. We need to go above that. And to go above that, we require good leadership. To go above that, we require technology. To go above that, we require institutions and good management of the economy. So, again, there is another part of history that also is discussed when they are saying that history is important or accounts for whether countries are developed now, will develop, or did not develop. And that history is also to do with that some countries which were in some parts of the world and it's an allegation that were never colonized, that actually didn't develop very fast. That because they were not exposed to external influences, that they were not exposed to to new ideas, they were not exposed to global integration. Like I said, this discussion, this part, these are issues or conditions or ideas whereby we have no universal agreement that they contribute to development or they affected development. We know history in some parts was bad for the society and affected the aspects of growth and development, but not alone. Not alone can explain how countries are poor or not poor. There is a lot we can discuss with regard to history, and we can spend the whole day and stay the whole summer and come the other winter, but we leave it at this because I want now to come to another important aspect: geography. Geography is an important aspect, and most of us, when we are growing in school, we studied geography because we had to learn about different parts of the world and different conditions in those parts of the world. We had to learn about mountains, we had to learn about rivers, we had to learn about seas, we had to learn about prairies in Canada, we had to learn about the Alps, the Swiss Alps. We had to learn about many things, the Yangtze River. We had to learn about Lake Victoria. We had to learn about the River Nile, the longest river probably in the world, starting from Uganda and ending in Alexandria in Arabic, in Egypt. So we learned geography and many parts of the world. But in this episode, when we talk about geography, we are talking about three things. One is location. Where are you located? Another one is weather, including the fact whether you are in the tropics or you are in the temperate areas with regard to climate zones. But also the other aspect we look at is access to markets. There is an argument, whether it is biased or not, and I've said this, geography, we are not agreed globally whether geography affects whether a country should be poor or rich. I said with good leadership and institutions, any country in any part of the world can develop and grow regardless of where they are located. So I'll begin with the issue of landlocked. The argument is that most countries that have no access to international waters, to the sea, most of them are not developed. Unfortunately, those countries are found in developing continents of Africa and Asia, mainly. So, if you are landlocked and you have no access to international waters, for you to get imports, the goods that you cannot produce, that will come from other parts of the world, you have to go through other countries. For you to export your products, exporting things, products and merchandise trade, merchandise commodities, where you want to get money so that you can improve your economy, you have to go through other countries. So it is argued that this is a challenge for countries that have no access to international waters. They have a distance to the international waters, but also as they cross other countries, they could be subjected to taxes, they could be subjected to other costs, including waiting costs. So that argument of access to international waters and therefore you can access international markets is an argument, and the argument is that those countries that are located, geographically located away from these waters or landlocked, they have a challenge. They are not developed because of access. But if you have good leadership, there is what we call good neighbors. You are landlocked, but you can develop good relations with your neighbors, and therefore your neighbors are your good neighbors. You have even bilateral trade relations, or you are a member of a regional bloc, a regional cooperation bloc. Then you remove the transport and travel transit costs. That country can develop. We have countries which are landlocked in Europe but are developed. So the other argument to do with geography also is, and this has been discussed a lot, that countries in the tropics in history could not allow foreign ideas, because when foreigners came, people from outside, they got disease and died. An argument has been that some Europeans who came to parts of Africa and even Latin America, in South America, they got a problem because they got diseases and died. We have lately discovered, hear this, that actually those foreigners had come with those diseases. Actually, they came with more diseases and left them in those parts of the world, in Latin America and in some parts of Africa, and many people died because of them. But there you have an argument, and the argument is that those countries, certain locations, were prone to diseases because they had the mosquitoes, they had other flies that would infect them, and therefore foreigners ran away with their ideas, with their technology, and they didn't evolve. We are not away from the location and geography. The argument is that people who live in the tropics, are generally poor. And when you look at it globally, yes, most poor people live in the tropics. But is it because they live in the tropics? Is it because they were born and located in the tropics? Is this the argument? In the tropics, one of the common characteristics with regard to weather and climate is that you don't have summer and winter. You don't have seasons. The difference in your environment, in your weather, is based on precipitation. Sometimes you have more rains, sometimes you have little rain. And that does not necessarily change the weather in terms of whether it is hot or cold. But those who live in the temperates, you have winter, and there is a winter season. you have summer and there is summer season. The argument is that because it is a big fact that most countries in the temperate climatic zones are developed countries. But is it because they were in the temperate regions and because the weather was harsh to them and therefore they had to work hard and develop? Sometimes if you ask people who live in the temperate countries, they tell you yes, because our weather was bad, we could have died during winter because if we are not sheltered well and we didn't have warm clothing and we didn't have heating in our buildings and houses and apartments and offices, would have died, so we worked hard. Is it the fact? That argument is not yet agreed, because we know there are some countries that have parts of the templates, but they are not developed. And we know there are also some few countries that live in the tropics and are developed. So again, the issue will not likely be location or geography, the issue, and therefore whether the issue will likely be more to do with leadership and management of the economy, in my view. And leadership is important in all aspects. It also has to do human capital development and how we use technology, not necessarily the issue of geography.